Hi friends, my name is Maureen. Welcome back to His Grocery Styles. Let's get started. For this project, we're going to be using 3 large brown paper bags. These are the kind that you get at the grocery store. And we're also going to be needing a round wooden surface. However, in my case, all I had on hand was a pumpkin shape. We'll begin by removing the bottoms to all 3 brown paper bags. But do save the bottoms because we're going to be needing them later on in the project. And we'll continue by cutting each bag open. And now we'll fold the bags into quarters by folding it in half and then half once again. And the reason we're doing this is just to save us some time when cutting the petals. We are going to be cutting quite a lot of petals, so just cutting 4 petals at a time, it will save us a little bit of time. And now we're going to be designing our own templates. And the way that we're going to do this is just by creating dots and then connecting the dots along the way. I have found this method to be the easiest method to design my own petals, so I really hope that you find this useful. The petal that I'm drawing here is the largest petal that we're going to be using, and this measures about 10 inches long. We will also need a medium-sized petal and a small-sized petal. The medium-sized petal will be reduced by just 2 inches, so it will be an 8-inch long petal. And the small-sized petal will be reduced by 2 inches as well, so it will be a 6-inch petal. Now I cut a total of 12 large petals, 14 medium petals, and 20 small petals. And through the magic of editing, they're all cut and ready to get painted. I am using the color Plaster by Waverly. This is a chalk paint, which is going to help us get a great coverage on these petals. And now this next step is going to be pretty important. We're going to be painting both sides of each petal, front and the back. Since we're painting on paper, if we were to paint only one side, the paper petal will curl. I'm showing you here how it stays nice and straight once you paint both sides of the petal. And we'll continue by painting all 44 petals in this manner. And I wanted to let you know that below in the description box, you will find the links to my other social media pages. I go live about 3 to 4 times a week on my Facebook page, and this is so much fun. That way we could go ahead and interact together as we craft. Now I'm going to be taking the color Flamenco Red by Apple Barrel. And to this I'm going to be adding a little bit of water just to make it a little bit more diluted and easier to spread. Now I'm getting ready to add the stripes to the petals. It is very important that you choose the brush thickness according to the size of the stripes you want to add to your petals. And guys, you know how whenever you're making pancakes, the very first pancake always comes out a little wonky? Well, this is what happens with this first petal. I did notice that I was carrying a little bit too much paint at the beginning, so notice that there was a little bit of bleeding on there of the paint. So I'm just using my heat gun to make sure that I dry it off to stop the bleeding. But I think on the very top, the way I'm holding it, it looks just fine. Now look at the very second petal. Look, it's coming out a lot neater. Notice that I am trying to remove some of the paint before I go paint my stripes, and that way it controls the amount of watery paint that I'm carrying on my brush. And now we will continue to do this stripe design on every petal that we have already cut and painted. And notice that I am trying to dry the petals soon after I finish adding the stripes. And that is because the red paint holds a little bit more water, and I don't want my petals to curl up because of it. And now once we have painted all of our stripes on our petals, now we are ready to construct our flower. So let's get ready to do that. And you'll notice that I'm using a pumpkin form from the Dollar Tree. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I needed something strong to hold my petals in place. And I didn't have a round wooden surface. So this was my next best thing. And you'll notice that I painted a red circle. And I did that just so that it could help me. It will guide where my petals are going to be glued onto. Now you'll notice that I'm doing a little something to the bottom of each petal. And I'm going to show you that very closely in just a second. But what I did is that I cut about 1.5 inches slit in the middle of the petal towards the bottom. I cut the slit from the bottom to the top, right directly in the middle of the petal. Here I'm showing you. And now I'm going to be taking each petal and I'm going to add just a little bit of hot glue, and I'm going to be gluing one side of the cut side of the petal to the other one, kind of like the way that you will cross your legs. And now I'm going to be gathering all of my large size petals. I'm going to be pile them up, and look what I'm doing. I mean, I'm curling the edge, the top edge back, and that is going to, notice the shape that it's giving my petals. You'll see. See, it looks like that's where they're going to be sitting, and I'm going to just curling them back. And now the way that I like to glue my petals is north, south, east, and west. And then I go ahead and start filling in the places in between. And that allows the petals to be nicely spaced. And that way you have a nice coverage throughout. Up next, I am adding my next size down, which is my medium size petals. I am gluing these petals in between the two larger petals. And that will help to conceal that gap that was created by the two larger petals. I also want you to notice that I am gluing those petals just slightly forward and just slightly in front of that red line that I had already painted. Now in this view, you're going to notice that I have already glued all of my medium size and my small size petals. And for the small size petals, I have cut the slit that is about 2 to 2.5 inches. And I'm doing exactly the same thing, which is I'm crisscrossing my petals on the bottom and adding a little bit of hot glue. And I am also molding my petals by pressing it downwards. And just remember that the small petals are going to be glued directly in between the two medium-sized petals. And this way everything is nicely filled. You don't have big gaps or big spaces without any petals. And notice that whenever I do see a little gap or a little space, I just go ahead and put a small petal on there. That is the reason why we have a total 24 of the smaller size petals. It helps us to go ahead and give it a nice coverage all throughout. And you guys, look at this beautiful flower we created. This is a door hanger that is going to be stunning. And as we add in the very last layer of petals, we're going to be sure that we are gluing these petals as best as we can. So double up the glue. Notice what I'm doing. I'm doubling up the glue on the back of my petals, making sure that I have glued them down from each side, from the right and from the left side of the petals. And now we're ready to work on the center of the flower. And now you all remember the bottoms of our paper bags, right? Well, now we're going to use them. So you're not to throw them away. I am going to be making a circle as best as I can, just a circular form with this part of the bag. This part of the bag is pretty strong, so I thought that why not? Let's just reuse that. Now go ahead and measure and see if it fits just right, or if you need to make it bigger or smaller, and we'll go from there. Now this step is totally optional. I decided to use some of these scraps that I had already cut off and to use that as a cushion in between these two layers of the paper, and I was going to glue one on top of the other and make kind of like a little cushion inside there. The only problem is that these two papers were not gluing one onto the other. I do not know why, but I was trying my best and it was coming off. It was just not staying down. So I went on to plan B. I went ahead and got some duct tape and went ahead and sealed this little cushion down all around. And guess what, you guys? It worked. It looks tacky, but no worries. All of this is going to be covered, I promise. But it worked. It totally worked. And now once I have sealed all of my edges with the duct tape, I'm going to be taking some fabric to cover this up. I purchased this fabric at Joann's and I thought it was perfect. Now the rest of this is just self-explanatory. So I'm just gluing my round onto my fabric, and I'm going to be cutting the edges of my fabric and gluing them down. I did go ahead and cut some slits into that just to make it easier for me to form this round shape, and then glue that down. And once this is all done, we're going to glue it to the center of our flower. And guys, I want to thank you for your time. Thank you for your support. Don't forget to leave me any message or comments. I do love to read those and answering back to you. Please give this channel some love. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you know that anyone else would love to see this, please do share. That way it could get to the right people. Thank you guys. Love you so much. Don't forget to follow me on my social media pages, which is on Facebook, on Instagram, and also on Pinterest. Have a good rest of your day, and we'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much for your time. I'm going to let you see the finished product. Adios.